The date is November 20th, 2012, and this is your daily dose of D&D. Welcome, friends, to Tell Me Tuesday on your daily dose of D&D. This is the day that I'm most excited about when I contemplate making this video series, because it is the day that I get to give in to one of the greatest temptations that nerds and geeks and whatever else you want to call us have, to tell you about my characters. And, you know, I'm not just going to tell you about the characters, I'm going to tell you about things that I've learned, and hopefully try and get things that will apply to you when you make your characters. These characters also have good stories that deserve to be shared. And, you know, when they're just locked inside my brain, I'm not able to share them. But now, I have an outlet. So today, I'm going to tell you about my first D&D character. I don't remember the name of my first D&D character. I know he was a dwarf, I know he was a shaman, I know he was kind of horrible at both. He was horrible at being a shaman, made a horrible leader and made horrible power choices, and was just pretty useless when it came to being a shaman. His dwarf role-playing was also kind of weak, but it was nice to have a first character. I was able to be fairly passive, you know, just being a leader. I didn't have to take the initiative and try and figure out how to kill the monsters. I just had to try and figure out how best to patch people up afterwards. This first campaign was a higher tier campaign. I don't remember if it was Epic or if it was just Paragon. I think it was probably higher Paragon. And we got to do some pretty fun things. My character was brought in by being the cousin of another character's dwarf. You know, he was a bit naive, and so I just gotta let Derek take the initiative, I believe I already said. And he just kind of led me around, and I just kind of, you know, helped as best I could. The best, most memorable moment of my dwarf shaman's character was when we were fighting a bunch of scorpions in this desert. And there was a line of them in the front, and Derek was up there, and he was trying to sneak attack and couldn't get combat advantage. So I summoned my spirit animal, who was a portal wombat, is what I termed him, because you can just kind of pick any small creature. He was a portal wombat named Moosin Squill, and I summoned him on the far side of the scorpion so that Derek would get combat advantage, which is kind of the reason I became a shaman, to do that trick, because I thought that was pretty cool. And then, once my personal defender was way on the other side of the map, scorpions came up from behind, and one of them grabbed me, and I tried to squirm free, and then it struck with a reactive action, and the DM rolled 3 nat 20s in a row, and I was knocked unconscious, because Kevin was very nice to me. And after that, my character became afraid of scorpions, and people would point out scorpions, and I would, like, cower in fear. And there was a running joke that wasn't really the DM, but it was just something that Derek would mention every once in a bit, that there was this scorpion who wore a sombrero and had a floppy mustache and wore a poncho, who would appear and he would go, "Fiesta!" and then burrow into the sand, and I was very afraid of him. There were a lot of things that I did horrible with that character. I made a terrible shaman. If I played him again, I would play him way, way different. I would pick different powers. I didn't use my spirit companion like he was supposed to be used. I effectively used him as an at-will spell to give Derek combat advantage, and that's a horrible way to use him. There was also the fact that as a healer for our campaign, the shaman wasn't really what we needed, as we didn't give ongoing damage and on other things that need saving throws as often, and that's one of the things that my shaman particularly specialized in. With this character, while I made a bunch of mistakes, there were a lot of things that I learned. First of all, I learned that I loved succeeding on perception checks. And that set up, and you know, I liked healing as well. It was, you know, back when I played World of Warcraft, I was playing kind of a healer, and I was horrible at playing World of Warcraft because I was focusing too much on healing. And it made, you know, I liked that aspect of the support character, and I liked the aspect of a wisdom-based character who was good at seeing things. and that's set up for the character that I'll tell you guys about next week. It also brought home to me that, you can't really tell how good a character is going to be until you've play tested it, until you have put him in the line of fire. And that's one of the things that's so great about Dungeons and Dragons, is that you get to, or at least 4th edition, is you get to retrain some of the stuff that you take, and if you've made horrible choices, you can do it again. And with with our group's style of doing campaignets, and trying to build the lore of those individual characters, well, it's not a consistent lore, and characters tend to change. And so I could play that same dwarf again, though I probably won't because Derek's in another state. And I've kind of grown a lot from making that character. I could play that dwarf again and do entirely different sets of powers and just say, oh, it was that guy, and then people would just kind of accept it in our group. We'd move on, even though it's an entirely different character. There's been several times that I've done that, and we'll bring up those characters as I talk about them. So, at the end of the players segment, what was your first character? Please, leave me a comment telling me about your first character, and what mistakes that you made, and what you loved about that first guy. In the DM's corner today, it is still Tell Me Tuesday, but this time, instead of telling you about a character, I am telling you about a campaign that I ran. And today I'm telling you about my first campaign, because I like making this symbol again and again throughout this video. My first campaign was more than I could handle. Me and my friend Derek had come up with this cool plan of a campaign that involved time travel, and there's totally a word for it, but I don't know what it is. And so that the characters would be moving from a younger self to a middle self to an older self, and have to kind of like interact with things that they learned on all sides of that. And I had thought that was a cool idea, and we were working towards him doing it, and then he realized that he was too busy with school and he couldn't do it. And so I stepped up to the plate, and while it kind of kept us entertained, there were a lot of things that I did wrong with it. Good mistakes that I learned about, and tried to fix while there. The first thing that I'm going to warn new DMs and older DMs about is don't bite off more than you can chew. If it looks complicated, it's probably complicated, and unless you're extremely confident in your competence, you don't want to take something that complicated. And I was way over my head with what I was trying to do. Second, the battle plan never survives contact with the enemy. I had a keep that was supposed to be an entire night's worth of campaigning. We only get about like 2 or 3 hours into our campaigns, and each weekday or each week, and so I had expected it'd take them a while to get through the guards and then through the people in the back gate, and then we had our party's bard come up and talk his way through, and there was nothing I could do about it. I suppose as a DM I could put a hard stop on it, but it was my first time DMing. I didn't want to do that. And so I let him happen, and it was a horrible night because we were just kind of like flopping around, and I ended up just pulling a dragon out of nowhere, and it was miserable. It was miserable, and for me and probably for the players, because it was a boring night. And then yeah, it just made it horrible. So it's important to remember that some of the player characters aren't necessarily combat focused. They're role-playing focused, or they're goal-oriented focused. And so you need to keep those people in mind when you're making this game, and try and figure out how those evil, vile wheels of players are going to go and slip through your labyrinth of encounters. And you need to be able to modify and accept when that happens, because there's nothing you're going to be able to do other than put your foot down. When you put your foot down, you look like a jerk. The third thing that I learned was that some players just can't really handle intrigue and social interactions. I think it was kind of fun for a lot of characters to try and do. Our group hadn't really been big. I don't know about before I started the group, but it appears that our group hasn't really, we've been just kind of playing D&D as a MMO, where you don't care about the story, where you just kind of go and you just kind of want to, kill things, get the XP, reap the reward. Okay, next quest, gives us something to do each week. And one of the things I tried to do as a DM, and one of the things I'm trying to do as a DM now, not that I'm DMing at the moment, is bring the story more to life. Because I think of myself as a storyteller more than anything, and that's what I want to get out of D&D. Another important thing that I learned was that players don't like doing work. I personally, and they don't like what you want to do. I personally love making characters and making character sheets and figuring out how the best thing works at each level. But my players don't see it like that. And so when I wanted to do the time travel effect and have them level very often, they were against it, and they are totally right to have been against it. And it was something that I needed to learn. So the 4 things that I learned, 4 specific things that I learned and that you can learn too, is first, make sure your eyes are not bigger than your stomach and know what you're getting yourself into. Second, your players are going to try and derail your plans. Make sure that you keep an eye on what they can do so that you know, like Senator Kelly once, how to keep things running the way you want to. That was an X-Men reference in case you guys didn't catch it. Number 3, pay attention to the players. Some of them are not going to be able to do role plays. Some of them don't like combat, and you need to keep an eye out for how to interact with all of the different people. And number 4, I had it just a second ago. Number 4 was, remember that your players, I found it, don't like to do work. They just want to be there to have your story wash over them. And it's important that you do that. Thank you guys for checking out the Daily Dose of D&D today. As you can see, I've kind of got something a little bit different going on today, and that's because YouTube failed me when I tried to record twice with my webcam straight to the internet, and so I have to do it through Windows Movie Maker, and that gives me time to put title slots and edit it a little bit, so you'll notice me jumping around, and I'll get better at that, I promise. I do want to share with you something that's pretty awesome. If you look down in the link below on the YouTube page, you'll see a video that was in my feed of the Roll20 system working on the WiiU, which is amazing, and I want that to happen. It's not entirely released yet, and it's a fairly horrible video, so don't get put off by that. Roll20 is an amazing system, and I would definitely support it console-based. So, give that a check out. This is Mad Matt Wonka with your daily dose of D&D. Sorry this went up so late. It was because those videos canceled and I had to get back to work instead of recording on lunch. So tomorrow should be better. So this is Mad Matt Wonka. I think closing off, I need to come up with a much more unique ending segment for this. But stay online, and I will see you guys next time.